Good afternoon, YouTube America. My next installment in the endless seeming series of installments, gaming in general. I want to talk about one of my personal favorite weapons in the game systems that doesn't quite get the playtime that a lot of others might consider it a useful item is the whip. Now, I'll grant you, I'm a fan of Indiana Jones. And when I first saw the first Indiana Jones, of course, and him using his weapon the way he did, with a style that made it a signature of the Indiana Jones character, I was intrigued. Now, as an offensive weapon, I won't argue that it doesn't do a lot of damage collectively to your opponents unless you're extremely gifted with it, have a lot of the feats devoted to it. But if you really want to put the effort into that, you can, and it can become a very versatile weapon. Obvious uses, of course, is using it for grasping and to try to disarm your opponents, although the system has done a very good job of making that a difficult endeavor to do. Another fond use that I have in preference for the whip is for distracting an opponent, using it for intimidation purposes, trying to back in the day when you could have called shots. Now the latest three versions of D&D kind of did away with that, but you used to be able to take an aim and hope for, if you got a crit, you hit, strike them in the face, in the neck, in the groin, if that's what it is. Obviously, a whip against an armored opponent is putting the person using it at a disadvantage, although can make an argument that the weapon itself snapping at people's faces, even in armor, it can be just mildly distracting, at least on the first or second attempt. After that, they become immune to it. The obvious other uses for it in my game worlds is for ascension or descension, reaching out and trying to take things from locations, or knocking things out of people's hands or off of tables, using them to close doors, to like I said, distract opponents and NPCs. Then there's the the style factor. Not everybody can utilize one well, and a lot of people have a tendency to tongue-in-cheek the weapon as something for S&M sessions or for evil characters. And whereas that may be the case in a lot of the Drow, for example, orcs, goblins, a lot of the humanoids and goblinoids use them for weapons of torture and for control, crowd control, I guess. You don't see a whole lot of good characters or goodly worlds, lands, if you will, utilizing the whip as a standard piece of equipment. Although my argument has been valid that in a city environment, the city watch, the local constabulary, for example, could utilize these things and quite effectively as in a non-lethal sense. That brings us to the other half of the weapon. It is a very good non-lethal weapon. You can use it in melee combats and brawls, things where you're not trying to cripple somebody, you're not trying to kill them, you're just trying to whip them literally into submission. I've done so quite effectively. Obviously, it's better suited to less or lightly armored individuals. Oddly enough, I've actually had a wizard or a sorcerer or two that used a whip as a primary weapon when he wasn't using his magic, and the ability to imbue a whip with magical powers greatly enhances its capabilities. There are also some very unique or individually interesting applications where magic whips can extend, become tentacles or snake heads, and so on and so forth. It's an interesting piece of hardware, and if for no other reason than because it's different, I challenge you to try using it in a campaign from a character perspective. See where it gets you. Use the weapon outside the box. Don't use it in the traditional sense any more than you have to, but use it in the untraditional sense, and you might find it quite enjoyable and entertaining.